Okay, this is test number 13 from sections 1.1 all the way through 5.1. Part 2, we're picking up at number 19. 19 says y's value equals 3. That means y will be 3 at this point. Y will be 3 at this point. It'll be 3 all the way. An easier way to write is just go ahead and draw yourself a horizontal line, y equals 3. Number 20 is likewise, but it's x values 2. That means x value is going to be 2 here. It'll be 2 everywhere you put it. So it'll be a vertical line, x values 2. Number 21 asks, are these lines parallel and why or why not are they parallel? In order for two things to be parallel, they have to have the same slope. If they have the same slope, they are parallel. If you're looking at two lines that are parallel on a graph, those two lines look like they're parallel because they have the same slope. They're rising and running the same at the same rate. So you can clearly see in your first equation what your slope is. Y equals mx plus b. This is your slope, negative 9 over 8. In order for your second equation to be parallel to it, it has to have that same slope. But this form of the equation is not in slope-intercept form. We need to move it into slope-intercept form. So anything that's not y, we want to move to the other side. That says negative 9x, which is the same thing as minus 9x. In order to undo that, add 9x. You add 9x to the left, you need to add 9x to the right. So these will cancel and leave you with, don't forget the negative 8y equals, there's a positive 9x on the right now, and it's still positive 10. Again, you still don't have y by itself. You have negative 8 right next to y, which means they're multiplying. Undo that by dividing by negative 8. Those will cancel and leave you with y. If you divide the left by negative 8, you need to divide the right by negative 8. So your new equation will be a negative 9 over 8x um, minus, it would be 10 over 8. 2 goes into both of them, so it would be minus 5 over 4. So your new equation, y equals negative 9 over 8x minus 5 over 4. The only part you're interested in is what's multiplying by x, because you want to find out if it has the same slope. Notice when you compare your slopes from your first line, negative 9 over 8, it's the same as your second line, negative 9 over 8. So yes, these are parallel. And the reason why is because they have the same slope. 22, we're still determining if they're parallel or not. Y equals mx plus b. Again, you can clearly see the first one's slope. It's 3. You have to move the second one to be able to see its slope. Negative 12, same thing as minus 12x. Undo that by adding 12x. Do the same thing on this side. These will cancel, leave you with 3y equals 12x, and it's negative or minus 36. Get rid of 3 times y by it says times, so get rid of it by dividing by 3, and it'll cancel and leave you with y. Divide this by 3 and this by 3. 12x divided by 3 is 4x, and negative 36 divided by 3 would be negative 12. Again, the only part you're interested in, since you're looking to see if they're parallel or not, is your slope value. Your slope value, mx plus b, is 4 in that case. So when you're comparing your two slope values, one of them is 3, the other one is 4. They're not the same. It doesn't matter how close they are. These are not parallel lines, and it's because they have different slopes. So that would answer your question, and why or why not. 23 says evaluate f of x equals negative 4x minus 5 when x's value is negative 2. So in every place for x, you want to plug in negative 2. So f of negative 2 equals negative 4 times negative 2 minus 5. And again, all we're doing is simplifying this. F of negative 2, you leave it just like that. You don't ever fool with this side. Equals negative 4 times negative 2 would be a positive 8. Bring down your minus 5, and 8 minus 5 is 3. So f of negative 2 is 3. Number 24, again, we evaluate f of x equals negative 1/3 times x. Anywhere you see x, you're plugging in negative 1/4. So there, I'm sorry, negative 4 there and there. So f of negative 4 equals negative 1/3 times negative 4. That's the same thing as negative 4 over 1. We can multiply straight across. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4, and 3 times 1 is 3. So f of negative 4, that's simplified, equals negative 4 over 3. 25 says evaluated where x's value is -2. So anywhere you see x, you're plugging in -2. So f of -2 equals -2 times, we're plugging in -2 squared minus 5. Order of operations tells you to do exponents before you do multiplication. So f of -2 equals -2 times -2 squared would be -2 times -2, which is +4 minus 5. F of -2 equals -2 times 4 is -8, and -8 minus 5, put those two together, the same sign would be -13 is f of -2, 25. 26 says graph 4x plus 1. mx, this one's easy. It's in mx plus b form already. B tells you where to begin. Remember, that's your y-axis or your y-intercept, so begin at 1. Your slope tells you where to move. 4 is the same thing as 4 over 1. That tells you to go up 4 times and to the right 1 time. So from the first point or from where you began, go up 1, 2, 3, 4 times and go to the right 1 time for your second point. Your second point should be right there, and as straight as you can, draw yourself. Straight as you can, draw yourself a line going through your 2 points. The graph should look like that. 27, use the vertical line test to determine if it is a function. Vertical line test. Remember, you don't have to draw these in, but mentally you need to think this way. Draw yourself a bunch of vertical lines. You need to draw them, by all means do it. I always did when I was in school. But if your graph crosses through any of those vertical lines more than once, in this case it doesn't, it would not be a function. But since it does not cross more than once, this one is a function, yes. Number 27, again, we're using the vertical line test. We're good all the way through here. When we get to this point, though, that is a vertical line where it touches here and it touches it an infinite amount of times in there. So since it touches it more than once, it is not a function. Then the last one, number 29, this is going back a few weeks for us. Y equals -x minus 3, where you're plugging in -1, 0, and 1. -x minus 3, I'm just showing the middle steps to help us out. Negative, where you don't lose it, -1. It's negative, negative. Don't forget that part. Negative times a negative would be a +1 minus 3, which would be -2. -0, anything times 0, 0 minus 3, which would be -3. And then negative times 1 minus 3 would be -1 minus 3, which would be -4. Then it says to graph it. In order to graph it, you need to look at your ordered pairs. Your first one is your x and your y value, -1, -2. So start at the middle and go down to the left. Remember, it's always x comma y. Don't let the fact that we've been dealing with slope a lot tell you to do y first. It's x comma y. Tells you to go to the left 1 time and then down 2 times. So to the left once and then down twice. There's your first point, -1, -2. Your second point, 0, -3 is your second one, 0, -3. That tells you don't go left or right at all, but go down 3 times. So again, from the origin, don't go left or right at all, but go down 3 times. So that one's 0, -3. And then your third point, 1, -4, write it up here, tells you to go to the right 1 time and down 4 times. So from the origin, again, right once and down 4 times, 1, -4. Once you have your 3 points, draw yourself best you can a straight line through all of them. And that'll be your graph.